Welcome to another episode of Voice of the Citizen. This is your host, Harjot Singh. We are seeing a lot of radical changes at the federal level, but as we always say, our local elections are very, very important. We have elections less than 4 weeks away. And as we often say, we're at an inflection point, maybe in our federal policy. This year, at our town level, we definitely are at an inflection point because something substantial, something huge is happening. In December 2024, the town council passed the Melville Overlay District Plan, which is going to bring substantial change to our town. It will involve construction of new housing, business areas, parks, lot of activity, which is going to have substantial impact. So it's very important for us as citizens to know what is being done, and we want to have front row seats to whatever happens, whatever planning is done, whatever execution is done. So today we have here a candidate for the town council for the supervisor's position, which I believe is going to be very important. As we understand, we have a 5-0 majority of one particular party in the town board right now. So that might bring some balance, if nothing else. So we will talk to the candidate, Mr. Cooper Macco, and understand where he understands on this issue. As we said last time, it's our job to find out where do our candidates stand. Cooper, you're very welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me on Voice of the Citizen this morning. I really appreciate you reaching out to me and setting this up. Excited to be here.
Cooper, we make an effort for our citizens, our people to know their candidates, because what you do has a direct impact on our lives. So it's our job to find out who you are, what is it that you're proposing, what are your experiences, and what are you going to do for us. So I'll start by asking you to tell our viewers and our listeners a little about yourself.
Well, I'm going to start by saying I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Huntington. I lived in Halesite with my parents until I was about 10 before they split up and I moved to Lloyd Harbor with my father. I went to both Huntington and Cold Spring Harbor school districts because of that split, but graduated Cold Spring Harbor in 2004, Long Island University in 2008, and St. John's School of Law in 2012. After I graduated law school, I started working as a consumer bankruptcy attorney, which I've continued to this day, really focusing on families dealing with financial hardship, small businesses who are unable to pay their bills, and local trade creditors, really, when they are owed money by larger entities who then go into bankruptcy themselves. So it's been a great experience working on the bankruptcy side of it, but I'm also involved in several civic organizations, including the Chamber of Commerce, where I'm currently serving as the vice chair, the Huntington Lawyers Club, where I was a past president, the Suffolk County Bar Association, where I was the head of the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Committee twice, actually, and local organizations from my son's PTA, where I sit on the board, and the Cub Scouts, where I am an assistant den leader. So I'm a lifelong resident of Huntington. I've moved back here with my own family. They're attending some of the same schools I did, and that's kind of driven me to get more involved.
Cooper, we see that you have a successful a career, a legal practice, and we see that you have been involved in public life for quite some time. But I would still ask you, what's your motivation to run for this office at this time?
Yeah, I think, first of all, the town office as a town, someone who's been involved in town for so long is really kind of where the buck stops. It's the last line of defense in a lot of ways, the last defense for residents, and as well as the first line of offense in order to get services from county, state, federal governments in order to kind of revive some areas. And it's important that we have strong representation. I think at this point, I've been paying attention, obviously, for the last several years. And I can see that we don't have strong representation in a lot of ways. And, you mentioned it earlier, and I'm sure we're going to mention it kind of at length, but we have a 5-0 majority on the board. So when no one's there doing checks and balances or making sure that it's in the best interests of everyone, it should raise red flags for everyone in the town. So I thought it was a good opportunity to get involved now because I couldn't really sit idly by anymore and watch it continue.
Cooper, people, despite their involvement, fail to understand the complicated structure of the complicated political structure of a town, Long Island, whole of New York. I don't know if how does it work for the rest of the states, but it's pretty complicated here. Will you, in a few words, tell us what is this position that you're running for, and what is the role that this position plays in our daily lives?
So New York is comprised of counties, and those counties are comprised of towns. Every town in New York has a town board and a supervisor. At least I think every town in New York does. Every town on Long Island does. The supervisor is really the head of the town board. He's not a true executive branch as the president or governor would be, because it's not a position that holds veto power. You really act as a fifth voting member in the town of Huntington for the town board, but you're also working as like the chief financial officer of the town. It's a full-time position. You're doing a lot more community outreach than the town board level, which is really more part-time and dealing with the individual issues day to day. You're running the meetings, the town board meetings, pretty regularly, and you're the number one advocate on behalf of the town, and really the figurehead in a lot of ways. Also, you're the most seen member of the town board, so you're leading it. Villages, there are 4 villages in the town of Huntington. They have mayors. The supervisor is what a lot of people commonly think of as the mayor role, but in New York, towns have supervisors, villages have mayors.
But still, we can see it as a mayor for the whole town.
Yeah, really the executive for the town.
There was something interesting you said. You said you will find alternative ways of raising the revenue so that our property taxes can be brought down. This is something that we all the residents here, complain about. We have very high taxes in this town. Can you give us a little idea of what is it that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think we can first, before we get started, obviously the town chunk of your real estate tax is a very small percentage. Most of your real estate taxes are comprised of the school budget, which varies from school district to school district. Since 2020, we've seen a large decrease in the number of full-time commuters to New York City, which has decreased the amount of revenue the town has brought in, obviously from parking permits, which was a big chunk of money, given the fact that there were several Long Island Railroad stations within the town of Huntington and kind of controlled by the Huntington parking permit. We need to fill that gap. I think we need to simplify a lot of parking elsewhere. We're already at the point now where we're moving to online permitting systems for both the railroads and the beaches. And I think it's time that we move to online parking permits for municipal lots as well. Really, not municipal lots, but municipal street parking. We have switched meter providers several times in the past years, which has raised a lot of questions. I see them a lot because I'm in the town center and Huntington Town Center a lot, and people don't know how to pay for parking, and often will say, okay, I'm just not going to pay. I'm going to run the risk of not getting a ticket because I can't figure out what app I'm supposed to be using. We should be switching to resident annual permits that are, low cost, $20. I probably don't pay $20 in parking in village centers over the length of the year, but I would happily pay $20 to avoid a ticket. And then on the flip side of that, I think we need to heavily increase the amount of fines that we're seeing for double parking, because we're seeing a lot more of that right now as food delivery, third-party food delivery really grows. If you go into any bustling business center, Huntington, Greenlawn, Northport, you're seeing a lot of double parking as a result of Uber Eats drivers, DoorDash drivers trying to double park real quick, run into the restaurant and grab the food and not pay a parking fee. But the problem is it's become sort of a public safety issue. We're having, especially in the village of Huntington, in the town center of Huntington, it's gotten so bad that the lanes will often be fully blocked. We have big tractor trailers often coming through 25A or on the other streets, and requiring them to kind of pull into oncoming traffic to get around them has created bottlenecks and a public safety issue. So we need to be increasing the fines, selling more parking permits, and trying to increase revenue from those sources rather than just increasing real estate taxes every year. The town's happy to increase them every year. We need to really focus on outside sources.
One of the biggest issues that, as we said at the top of the program, is overdevelopment and housing. Years back, 2008, there was a master plan, Horizons 2020, which talked about affordable housing. Not much has been achieved, and now this December of last year, we got this vote, which is the overlay plan for the Melville district. Can you tell us a little about this plan and what you individually think about it?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to start by saying that it's almost a disservice that we are still operating off the Horizons 2020 plan. That was a plan that was to be achieved by the year 2020. We're now 5 years past that. Mm-hmm. So the town still does not have a comprehensive plan and really no fixed goals. So I think you've kind of pointed out one issue there, maybe unintentionally, with the fact that the town has let their goals lapse by 5 years now, and we haven't seen a new comprehensive plan. So first and foremost, we need to come up with a new comprehensive plan as soon as possible to give everyone sort of an idea of where we tend to go for the next 10 to 15 years, just as the Horizons 2020 plan did. The Melville project is a proposal that was passed by the town board last year, which allows an overlay district in the area between the South Service Road and I think Rulin Road or Maxis Road in Melville. So basically from the Costco on 110 all the way north to the LIE, which will allow those property owners to submit applications to redevelop that land from, commercial space, largely vacant commercial space, office buildings, the Huntington Quadrangle, those Green Acres areas over there, into mixed use development. So housing, about 1,500 housing units, and a downtown area, stores underneath. So it in theory, they're trying to create a walkable downtown in Melville in the 160 acres that create that overlay district.
So at what stage of implementation is the plan? Is it are permits already being issued for construction? What's going on there?
Yeah, the overlay district was passed, as you said, December of last year. At this point, it's to each individual property owner to submit plans to redevelop it. As far as I know, there's only been one sort of proposal that may still be in pre-application. Mm-hmm. No plans have been approved by the town board yet. And the way that the overlay district was passed, they can really only consider plans up to a certain number of units before they have to put a, quote, pause in place. But it's really unclear, and that's a little bit of the concern, I think, from the community, which is that they rushed to pass this overlay district, but in doing so left a lot of things ambiguous. And that raises red flags for when the community doesn't know where this is going, and the town really says, we're going to figure it out as we go. That's not a great strategy, right? We need to be focused again.
We understand there's a 5-0 participation of one party in the town board, 5-0, all Republicans. And we had a very contentious primary this summer where one of the council members challenged the supervisor for the role. And there were some allegations of misdoings, of lack of transparency, and certain serious allegations. We hear that there might be a criminal referral as well. We don't know about it yet. I don't think it has been done yet. But we, definitely would like some balance. We would like some transparency. We would like some challenge, some accountability. Do you think you are a candidate who would bring that accountability that we desire?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I have a history in the town of Huntington, and anyone that you ask, regardless of how they feel about me, most will say they like me, I hope. But
that's what we hear so far.
I'm always open and honest. And if you're not going to like what I'm saying, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you it regardless. And I'm going to be honest with you because I'm not going to serve myself by giving people a lot of face service. I think that really helps. And, Yeah, exactly what you said. The issues related to the Melville project and town board members' financial connections to real estate property in that, as well as the other town board members' knowledge, whether they had actual knowledge or they should have known that a town board member had a financial tie to that area, raises concerns. And I think everyone's correctly picked up on those concerns, and that town board member isn't running for reelection, and another town board member challenged a supervisor related to that. So if you're not paying attention to those issues, they may get lost, but it's a bad look when someone within your own party, an elected official within your own party, is challenging you for a position you've already held and not an open.
Yeah, but, as we say, we definitely need a balance where people are held accountable. There's someone to question, there's someone to challenge. What else do you think are the issues concerning the community in Huntington this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is, and Melville is one step maybe in the right direction, depending on the environmental overview, that we really have a housing issue here. We're seeing young people leaving the town of Huntington at an alarming rate. Almost every school district in the town has seen decreased enrollment in the past 10 years, and that's due to the fact that young families really are having a hard time affording to move back here. Our housing is great if you have been here for 15 years, but the prices now have become astronomical, and it makes it hard for working young professionals, working skilled labor to afford to live and work in the town of Huntington. So we really need to find a solution to that, a creative solution, whether that's in some instances, redeveloping commercial space into mixed-use housing is a good one. Creating transportation hubs that have housing around it, such as in the Huntington Long Island Railroad, and we hope to redevelop Huntington Station as we move south towards Jericho from down the 110 corridor. I think that's a real great opportunity to help bring young families in. Not only young families who work on Long Island, but young families who may want to commute to the city and not own a car. Mm-hmm. So I think that we need to be more open to these ideas and more accepting that, hey, it's great right now. That doesn't mean that we can't thwart all progress forward in the future.
But talking about that issue, it's not just that our youngsters are leaving. Our elders, our seniors, they need to be, they've lived their lives in these towns, and if they want to downgrade, right? If they want a smaller place, they need to be able to afford something. Besides that, we are. I understand we primarily looked at ourselves as one of those bedroom communities. There was a time when people were traveling to city, most of the people. Now there's a lot of business locally. We want to invite talent. And if we want to invite talent, we want to invite youngsters, we need to be able to provide them housing. People are finding it difficult to move here if they can't afford.
Yeah, and not just housing, because that's obviously the biggest thing, but also a sense of community. And that includes expanded parks, expanded community centers, areas where young families can come and meet other families and gather. And we, in the suburbs we have parks, and that's great, but a lot of those parks have fallen into disrepair and need to be updated, because that's what's going to encourage people. It's not going to be, okay, great, you found a small apartment you can afford. That's the first step. But let's look at what's around there. We have great businesses. I love the fact that we have so many small, locally owned businesses in the town of Huntington. Mm-hmm. And I would love if the town could take a role in encouraging those businesses to come here by, opening up a think tank, maybe on Jericho Turnpike in a vacant box store, to allow locally owned businesses to start in an area that's subsidized by the town, in a hope that when they leave there, they'll stay in the town and bring more revenue into the town, because the money that comes into Huntington to be spent in Huntington helps everyone, right? Someone comes in for a shop they like, they stay for lunch. That it's all synergy, right? They all work together towards promoting Huntington as a town, and that's what we really need to do. And the town's kind of left that lapse. They're really happy to kind of keep the status quo, and as a result, we've seen other towns do this very well. We've seen Patchogue do this very well. We're starting to see Riverhead do this very well. And those two towns were, 10 or 15 years ago, kind of an afterthought. Huntington was always the place. And now we're falling behind. We need to keep moving forward. We can't be stagnant.
That's an excellent thought. And you're absolutely right. People don't take much interest, I believe, at least I've seen it in my communities, in these local elections. They come out every 4 years to vote in the presidential elections, but we always, advocate for people to come out and vote in these elections because they have a very huge and immediate impact, right? And one of the reasons is that people don't actually know or understand where does the money come from. Where does a town spend the money? I'll take this opportunity. I'll take the advantage of you being here. You know these issues so well. We understand last year the town budget was increased by around 10 million, went to 239 million, I guess, right? Can you give our viewers a little idea of where this money is spent and what are the main sources of raising this revenue?
Yeah, a lot of the main source of revenue are your real estate taxes. You can look at your real estate taxes, or your landlord is looking at their real estate taxes, and the money's kind of laid out, and it's relatively not fully earmarked, but a lot of it goes into the operating budget, which is used to operate year to year. There's also, the capital budget, which is used for capital improvements, and really more, I think it's more earmarked for specific projects. The town gets money through taxes as well as grants from Suffolk County, New York State, and the federal government to do things that promote tourism or open spaces and things like that. So it's a combined revenue, grants, real estate taxes, all kind of come in, and that's where the budget comes from.
So when you say that you propose innovative ideas to raise the revenue. The reason I ask this question is I want people to realize that if we have a thought, if we have somebody talking about raising revenues from other sides, our property taxes are going to go low. Is that correct?
I'm not saying they're going to go low, but they're not going to be increased every step. Right now, the town as a municipality is bound by what's called the tax cap, which is a maximum amount we can raise the taxes without what's called piercing the tax cap, which requires another vote specifically for it. And that number is about 2% a year, subject to some other adjustments. So this year, I think for the 2026 budget, which I looked at, it was about 2.54%. And that's the maximum we can raise it without piercing the cap. And the town's raising it right to the maximum without requiring that extra vote. And that's great that we've stayed under the tax cap, but at the same time, is there a way to kind of stay a little bit further under the tax cap for us these years? Because every dollar matters right now. The cost of everything is higher. And if we can try to help residents any way we can, we really have to. And not to the detriment of our town, but we have to make sure everyone can afford to live here and stay here and not feel like they're being priced out. Seniors who may want to downsize and are on a fixed income, you certainly don't want to feel like they're being pushed out of their hometown.
Besides housing, what else do you think are the issues concerning the citizens?
Yeah, I think you said it just briefly before, which was transparency. We really live in a computerized society these days. It's very easy to have what's called like an online checkbook. Everyone can see where the money is spent. That gives people confidence that their money is being spent in appropriate ways. It was something that my opponent ran on in 2017 and yet hasn't implemented almost 10 years later. It's something that from my conversations with knowledgeable people in that field, could be very easily implemented with the software the town is already using, or it could easily be implemented with a subsequent software that would basically adopt the budget data that's already been using. So that kind of helps. And that transparency is the first step in restoring public confidence. And I think we have to look at all the issues because, quite frankly, I'm a bankruptcy attorney. I don't have a great wealth of knowledge outside the small facet of the law that I do, but I think I need to bring in people who do know that and can advise me, because I'm not going to stand up there and tell you I'm a genius. I'm not. I'm great at listening to people because that's all I do for work. And I want people to come in and tell me what the issues are and where we could be doing better. And that's really it. And right now, we have that 5-0 majority. So I can't even say, I was talking to this town board member who is obviously with my party, and they were saying, here's where some holes exist, because we don't have that. We don't even know what's going on behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. The town's very quick to say, well, you don't know what's going on. Yeah, that's the point. We don't know what's going on. Please tell us what's going on. If you have a reason, please tell us. One of those examples was the Conti Community Center in Huntington Station, they have the money in the budget. It's my understanding the asbestos abatement has already been done. It was supposed to be a community center for the Huntington Station community. It exists on right next to Manor Field, between Manor Field and the new, not new anymore, but the Avalon Apartments. And it's largely vacant except for several general services, highway department trucks that sit in the back. Why? We have the money in the budget. It's been earmarked. It can't be used for anything else. Why have we not broken ground on redeveloping that? We need to start taking steps towards improving our infrastructure. That's one of them. We can't, money's great. It's great to have the money in the bank. I'm sure it's accruing interest that the town is using elsewhere, but the money's earmarked for specific projects. We need to start breaking ground on these projects. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road.
Cooper, we are very concerned with our water quality. I would like you to tell us first, is that something town has the biggest role in, or is it something that's done at the county level?
That's really a hard question because obviously the town has a vested interest. We have several beaches in the town of Huntington. You know, we have a big boating community, which I'm part of, that love the water. And the runoff certainly has some effect from the town. We need to control the runoff to the extent we can because that's really contaminating our public beaches with high chemicals related to fertilizers, commonly used fertilizers, which are running off due to the storms. We're seeing large storms come in more and more frequently these days. We're expecting one tomorrow. And that pollutes our water, which then in turn causes the beach to be closed. So to the extent that we can create better drainage solutions at the town level, that's certainly one way. The other thing we have to focus on is the expansion of self-contained sewage treatment, moving away from antiquated cesspools, because that's leaching both into our aquifer and into our saltwater beaches. So those two things together really can't be dealt with at the town level alone, right? We need to get more grants from the county, from the state to expand the sewer systems to the extent they can. That's where the money in Huntington Station is coming from. It's coming from I believe a county grant to expand the sewer system from the Long Island Railroad down to Jericho Turnpike. And we need to try and reach more money, not only to expand the sewer system, but then also upgrade the sewage treatment plants that deal with that after the fact. Because sewers are great, but where's it going, right? We need full treatment. We need a great level of treatment to clean that water, to try and let it go back into the environment in a way that's not going to contaminate things. Right now, 70% of Suffolk County is on cesspools. That water's that sewage is leaching into the ground, and that's going deeper and deeper into our aquifer. I live less than a half mile from the water. The sewage treatment plant for the town of Huntington is less than a half mile from my house also. I'm not connected to it. No one on my block is. Everyone's sewage is certainly leaching into the ground and leaching into Huntington Harbor. So we have to find a way to do that, and the only way we can do that is with our partners at the county and state level.
I think the idea that we get generally is that we need some fresh energy and new ideas in a town. We have been sitting on ideas. We have been lagging behind, and some fresh leadership might be needed to achieve those. And it's been very informative and pleasure to be talking to you today. We are coming to the end, and I would ask you to tell us in your own words, why do you think you are the best candidate for the position that you're seeking?
Well, thank you for having me. But besides everything that I've kind of already gone into and my focus on transparency, accountability, I think it's important that we look at the composition of our town board. I'm not just saying the 5-0 Republican supermajority, but I'm looking towards the future. I have a young family. I'm trying to raise my young family in Huntington. I'm hoping that they will do like I did and come back to Huntington and raise their own family there. We need fresh ideas. And unfortunately, I think a lot of those fresh ideas are going to come from younger elected officials. I think it's time that we put younger people on the town board. I'm one of the youngest people on the ballot this year, and I think it's important that we elect people with fresh ideas. This is not a position where right now there are no checks and balances, but this is a position where we are working with other elected officials, and having a diverse group on the town board helps bring different ideas. Right now we aren't getting that. We need younger people with new ideas, focus towards the future, not people who are worried about things that have happened and how they're going to preserve what's already here.
Cooper, thank you so much for taking all the time today. We wish you all the very best for your campaign ahead.